Lost in the shadows of who she used to be. Does mom have a name? Does she have a face?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast of Does Mum Have a Name? How are you going, Nicole?
I'm going really good. How are you going, Deb?
Good. It's been a couple of weeks. We've probably got a bit to catch up on because we haven't really spoken a lot. But let's start with the launch that we had a couple of weekends ago.
Yes, it was really exciting and really great to see everybody come together to support us in that launch. And we have shared a few photos and interviews that we did on that day. So it was a really good day.
It was a brilliant day. For me, it felt like a blur. It
Yeah.
just went so fast. I think because we were just doing so much in the planning. And I remember waking up that morning thinking, oh my Lord, I've had such a big week. Who decided this was a good idea?
I know, and I had my social anxiety about whose idea was it to put me at a table at the front of the room and talk about this podcast because, you know, that's not my thing, but it went really well and we managed to get through it. And yeah, everyone said they enjoyed it. And yes, like I said, some really great interviews.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, the people that we asked to attend, well, originally we were going to do the launch, but it ended up being a celebration. So,
Yeah, because
because
we've
we'd
already
already
put out
done
a couple of
a
episodes.
handful of episodes, yeah. But the support was just magnificent. And yeah, we've got a really good tribe of people around us, I believe.
We do, we do. So yeah, we had the
Yeah,
launch, so that was really successful. And then Deb, you had a wedding after that as well. So you were kind
I
of,
did.
yeah,
I
launch parties
did.
and weddings.
4 days later, my eldest son got married, and it was a beautiful day and a beautiful wedding. And they're potentially coming back from their honeymoon today. So
Oh, nice.
it was a really lovely, and we had lots of family. We had family come over from the UK, and my stepmom from South Australia came and spent some time with us. So after the wedding, I'm not ashamed to say we had a couple of pajama days.
Yeah, but I think you need it after a big event like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then we got back into work. So how's work going for you?
So work has been really busy. I have some wonderful clients that I'm seeing now on a regular basis, which I really love. And getting to know them because as you know, that's the secret of, creating a good behavior support plan is really getting to
Absolutely.
know them and just learning about their motivations and their behaviors. So I'm really enjoying that part of my job at the moment. And yeah, it's definitely keeping me busy. What about you?
Well, I'm just finishing up on proofreading a behaviour support plan that I've done for a client that I've known, like you say, for a few years. So this is probably their second behaviour support plan, but I've known the family for about 3 years. And I'm completing it thinking this grandmother that's taking care of this child who has Down syndrome, such a beautiful young boy, she's put so much effort that the behaviors really have decreased, and now it's I'm so proud of her. I'm really proud of this grandmother.
Yeah, and it's nice to have wins for us too that, the work that we're doing is actually helping families and yeah, it's not always the case in our job, so it's always good to celebrate those little wins.
It really isn't always the case, is it? So then we get a whole gamut of different styles of people and what they need and what we can provide them. But those ones that really touch our heart, that we know that they're dedicated and their child is the focus, but not to make life easier, but to help them grow into the best version of themselves.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
life is not easy. Life is challenging.
It's not. And, I've come across recently working with a provider too that has multiple homes, just the difference that it makes when they have supportive staff on. And, it makes my job so much easier. We're not fighting providers, we're actually here to help providers. So it's really good when they bring me on and have open minds and are really wanting to hear what I have to say. So it just, yeah, it makes a big difference. So that's
It
been
really does.
it does. And
It's that partnership.
it is a partnership, exactly. Yeah. And I know when
Yeah.
we had our launch, a lot of people were coming up to me and asking me to share my journey with my son with autism. And although I have two sons with autism, I think really focusing on my eldest son, because that's really where I had to learn how to adapt and how to, I guess, function with a child with autism. So Deb and I thought today we might just share that story with you guys, so a little bit more about me and where I've come from.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking you've had such a journey in parenting.
It has been a long, it's actually 18 years. He just turned 18. So it's 18 years of, yeah, a long journey.
And obviously nothing that you expected. All your expectation plans went out the window.
Oh, they did. They did. And, I think back to when 18 years ago, I was quite young and, I didn't know anyone with autism. I wasn't in the NDIS. NDIS probably wasn't even around then.
Right.
And I wasn't even in this world. So I did not know one other person with autism. And other than what I'd seen on TV, and I'm like, well, Dale doesn't really look like this person that I've seen on TV. And he's not doing the same behavior. So I wasn't quite sure, but I knew something was different about him, and
Yeah.
so even that journey of getting him diagnosed was a really interesting one.
Well, why don't we start there, just to try and understand the journey. So, what were some of the first signs that you did see of autism, if that was
Yeah.
really anything that crossed your mind?
So with Dale, like he was born at 35 weeks. So he was born quite prematurely and he obviously had his issues when he was born, but he thrived. He came home. He was actually home by the time he would have been born. So he did really well up until he had his immunizations at around 3. And within 48 hours of that, he actually had regressed back to almost a baby-like state. Like he went back, he was fully toilet trained up to that point, talking, walking, doing all the things you would expect a 3-year-old to do. And then suddenly he woke up and he wouldn't go to the toilet anymore. He wasn't speaking, he wasn't communicating, he wasn't, something was wrong. And I could feel it as a mum. I just
What a
thought,
difference.
I know it's such a difference. It was like having a little newborn again because I had to put him on the toilet and I had to do all these things that he'd been doing himself prior to that. So um, I took him to the pediatrician and I said, look, something's not quite right here. And I remember the pediatrician saying to me, no, he's fine. He's just developing. Take him home. We don't want to label him. He's only 3. Bring him back when he's 5, he said. So, and that was a pretty prominent pediatrician in my area as well. So, being a mum, new mum, listened to him and took him home. And there was another 2 years before we actually got an actual diagnosis for him.
Well, I was just thinking that was 15 years ago, and I'm sure you have seen some massive changes just even in the last 5 to 10 years.
Now I think doctors are actually listening to mums a little bit more. They're actually, I think, taking into account when mums are coming in going, hey, my child's a little bit delayed or they're not, reaching milestones. I think now the doctors are more inclined to do testing. But then on the flip side of that, I'm on a lot of Facebook groups where, again, mums aren't being listened to either. They're complaining about, doctors not listening or, testing being so expensive. So it's really hard.
No.
Yeah,
We've got a long way to go still.
we
We
do.
really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to when he was a child, what was your day-to-day life experience like? Tell
Oh,
us, talk
it
us through that.
It was so hard because I had an older son, Dylan, and he obviously developed quite normally. So the autism was with Dale. So suddenly I had this new child that was doing all these things that I didn't understand. So every day was basically watch and watch. Like I had to watch him because he was that kid that would be climbing things he shouldn't be. He was, getting into things he shouldn't be. Even the absconding outside, I'd find him up the road putting things in people's letterboxes. Like he was just that kid. He would not slow down. And so every day I just basically had to watch him, just had to make sure we made it safely through the day. And he
I
wasn't
was going to say, while you were watching, what were you feeling? What were
exhausted.
the feelings?
I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I had um I don't know. I think you just do. Everyone kept saying to me, "I don't know how you do this. I don't know
Mm.
how you survive." And I'm like, "Do I have a choice? Like, was I given a choice? No. Like, I just had to do what I had to do in that moment." So yeah,
Well, that's right.
exhausting.
And that's
Yeah,
quite a strong, yeah, you're a strong woman. And it is so tough because I know a lot of mums with children on the spectrum, and it is wearing. They're
it,
exhausted
yeah,
and
and
alone. They feel alone.
yeah, and that's why I'm always advocating for families to get respite as well, because I know what it's like to not have anyone to help you because he was quite adventurous and quite spirited, they used to call him. So, finding
Yes.
babysitters was like zero, like maybe for an hour or so, but that was it. So I pretty much, had him 24/7, 18 years, I would say, like, and we're still doing it. Yeah.
So, how did that journey affect your mental health?
I think I didn't have time to wallow in what was happening at the time. And I
Yeah.
even when he was little, I even went back to uni and did a degree and did it while I was caring for him because I thought one day I'm going to have to go back to work and I'm going to have to support, all my boys. So
Yeah.
I managed to do that as well as raising him. But as far as the mental health part, I think it affected me more later on when
Okay.
when I knew he was settled and fine. That's when I kind of had a shift and thought, oh my God, like all this stuff that I've been going through all these years, I felt like I wasn't allowed to wallow in that. But then I was given,
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess when he was settled, it was my chance to actually feel what was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, good on you. It sounds like such a busy journey and such a draining journey that, like when you said he settled, you must have just fallen apart.
I did.
The whole body must have felt it.
I did. And it's just, and I even remember the shift. It was like when I knew he was okay, it was like my body shifted. So it's quite a surreal
Yeah.
feeling. Yeah.
Well, speaking about support, what kinds of support did you have, and has there been changes over that 18 years?
Yeah. So as far as support, I didn't have back in those days, it was early intervention. We used to get like an autism package, I think it was. So started getting in therapists to see him. So I had those supports coming in. But and also like obviously family support as well, but family lived quite far away. So it was really just me and the boys at the time. And so I guess I was bringing in these therapists in hopes that they would help me with him, just give me some
Yeah,
advice, give me something that's going to, make this better. And what I learned is that therapists come in and out of your lives very quickly, and you really have to
yeah,
trust your own intuition when it comes to your child because you're the one that's going to
yeah,
have to be, around and seeing the consequences of the work that you put in. So it was,
yeah. Well, that's right. They're the ones living it.
that's
And they're the
right.
ones, yeah, that are faced with it all the time. You've just reminded me, I had a new client come in, a mum, and we were fast tracking a behaviour support plan so that she could access some respite. And by the end of a couple of sessions of speaking with her, she said, "It's just so lovely to have someone to talk to."
Yeah, exactly.
And I could hear you in my head every time I said to her, "Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand," you
Yeah.
know?
And sometimes that's
Yeah.
all mums need to hear. They just need to hear that,
Yeah,
yeah, I get it. Like what you're going through is not, it's normal and it's hard and it's a journey but it's also just a season. Like it will change. Yeah.
great. That's always good to hear that there's some hope.
Yeah.
Because some people, like when hope's gone, we can feel yeah, it's not a nice time. So back to the support. Have you found anything online, any community groups that were beneficial, or what were your thoughts on that?
So back when he was little, I think Facebook was probably my only support, like Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And he was homeschooled as well. So I belonged to the homeschooling groups, I belonged to the autism groups, I belonged to I guess just parenting groups because that was my, I guess, seeking out other people who were going through this journey as well and just asking for advice, just and reading other people's
Yeah.
stories. Yeah.
Okay. And did they align with what was going on for you? Like, did you get some
Sometimes
help?
I
Like,
did. I found in
yeah,
the homeschooling groups, I didn't really fit in with any particular group because they were very much group orientated. Like you have your Christian homeschoolers and you have your unschoolers and whereas I was just more of a let's just get through the day and do what we need to do
yeah,
today. Like I didn't really fit into a certain group. But the autism groups have
yeah.
always been great. They've always been mums that are happy to, hop on and send you messages of hope. Even if they don't know the answer, they'll just say, look, this is hard and it will get better, but I can't answer your question. So, yeah,
You've really, truly experienced this very
yeah,
firsthand, haven't you? The
yeah,
whole journey,
yeah, definitely.
18 years. Okay. Well, let's go a little bit. What was some of the more joyful or rewarding moments that you've experienced because of the situation?
Yeah. So I think it's funny now because the hardest part of my life was probably when they were little, around 4 and 5. But now that they're older, I really miss that stage. I miss that, like, you know, go have a bath, put your pajamas on, like that. And they were so like, he was so inquisitive all the time. He was just, and he was always happy. That was the thing. Like he never had any kind of behaviors that we would see typically in a lot of our clients.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess his behaviors were more around not being able to know the difference between what was safe and what wasn't safe. There was no
yeah.
road safety, that kind of thing. But
Sense.
there was a
Yeah.
lot of positives growing up too. There was a lot of, learning through his eyes and seeing things through him. And I guess, like you learn to adapt and you learn to, I guess, see things the way he sees things. So, and all the hard work has paid off now because he is doing so much better and thriving in life. So
He is absolutely thriving.
he is.
Absolutely. And and it's testament to you being so plugged into your children.
Yeah.
And we do, as mums, we really, I know that we talk about how we lose our identity, but the fact is, we're their caregivers. We're the ones that are responsible for getting them to 18,
Yeah.
and when we're plugged in, we'll do anything that we can. And when I say that, it's not like we give in to them, into our children. We actually have that, also that bit of tough love too, where we've got to set boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess it's listening to your kids too and understanding them and um like Dal when because I did start him at school, he went to kindergarten because the therapist told me that was the best thing for him to do because of his social needs and against my
Okay.
judgment, yeah, we sent him off to school and he just did not do well. And I would go to school and pick him up every day, and he would be underneath a desk and he'd be covering his ears, and he'd be that kid that wasn't engaging in the classroom. He wasn't being, I just didn't think that he was thriving in that environment because it was a
Mm,
mainstream class. And and that's
yeah.
a story, where the teacher had told me the best thing I could do for him is to take him out and put him into a home for special needs kids. And I'm like, no, like he's can do so much more in life than that. So, and we always joke about it now because Dale's like, oh, that day when you come and got me and marched me home, and that was it. So from that day on, he was homeschooled. So, and
Okay.
it was the best decision we ever made because schools are still teaching the way they taught 30 years ago. They're not.
Yeah.
I know we're seeing a lot of changes now in schools and especially in the autism classes and the multi-cat classes, but in the mainstream classes, not much is changing. So the kids
Yeah.
that can't learn are being put up the back in the classrooms, and the kids that are learning, they're the ones at the front. So yeah, so it was the best decision I think we ever made.
I'm really taken aback still by that comment because, like let's just review what level of ASD was Dale
Two.
diagnosed with?
Two.
Level 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were no behaviors, like he wasn't a violent child.
No.
And he seemed happy. And they're the things that we look for, don't we? How
Yeah.
they externalize their behavior and how they internalize their behavior. So it really blows me away that if you had really paid attention to that, look
Yeah.
where he may be,
Oh,
and
exactly.
you dug your heels in. And I mean, he's one of my heroes. Like, I'm so inspired by him and knowing him for the last few years and where he's grown into now into adulthood. He's coming into adulthood. He's just an amazing, amazing man. You've done so well.
He is. And, if anyone that's watching this wants to see where he is today, he's actually on one of the kids on the assembly that was just on ABC iView looking at, people on the spectrum who want to become journalists. So he actually just went through that journey and he did so well and he really thrived. And now he's found his calling. He's doing videography and, which pays off for us because he's doing all our videoing when we go on do our launch parties and stuff. So it's really good.
Things have changed so much, Nicole. Like, I'm thinking back when I was 18, yeah, a few years ago now, but I wanted to be a mechanic and they weren't, girl mechanics were unheard of,
Yeah.
right? So what now, 30 odd years later, Dale's got this wonderful opportunity. And that inspires me with when I talk to other clients and say, you've got your whole world ahead of you. You can do whatever you want.
And they can. They just need people in their corner who will support them. Because I had many therapists coming. Dad was actually quite obsessed with screen time and computers and gaming, anything to do with gaming or computers. So many therapists would come in and say to me, you need to get rid of those screens. You need to get rid of that computer. But my thing is, that's his only communication. That's his way that he talks to people in the world. That's his way of, I guess, expressing himself. And that didn't
Yeah.
align with me. So I didn't do it. I never got rid of the screens. I never got rid of all of that. And now look at
Okay.
him, like
Yeah.
he just completed his internship with ABC. So, like, all that screen time has actually paid off because that's his passion in life. And he's still doing that now. So, if any mum's watching this and, struggling with that decision, like, really just understand how your child feels and think about the long-term effects of those
Mm.
decisions that you're making. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's hard and have a team around you to discuss these things,
Yeah.
even though ultimately it's your choice. Yeah, I was just thinking about Dale. Looking back now over his life, could you see any of these little skills that were developing? I know you talked about screen, but were there any other things that you thought, oh, wow, he's very good at this? Or,
Oh yeah, like he would create these really cool Lego things. Like, and I'm talking about he'd make me like a phone holder for my desk, or and he'd make practical
oh,
things
clever.
that move around, and his brain was always rolling, like you could see it. So he was really intelligent, and he was, get him on a computer and he will do amazing things. So I saw that and I was really hurt that his teacher couldn't see that in him because she didn't really
Mm,
give him a chance to kind of show what he
yeah,
was good at.
yeah,
Yeah, so I saw the potential his whole life, and I've always said to him, autism is that's what you have, it's not who you are. So you can do whatever you want and you just have
yeah,
to work hard just like everybody else, to get
yeah,
there. Yeah.
exactly. Okay. So I know we've sort of bounced around, but if there's any new parents that have suspect that their sorry, I can't even speak, suspect that their child might need some intervention, that something's going on, what advice would you give these parents starting out,
I
particularly if they've been diagnosed with an autism?
Yeah, I think especially when your child's first diagnosed, it's really important to try and work out what it is that you're child needs. And sometimes we don't know that as parents. So that could be trying, speech therapy, OT, if your child has behaviors, obviously getting in the behavior clinician as well to help you. And, music therapy, there's the list goes on, but you
Yeah.
will learn what it is that your child needs. And, for Dale, originally it was speech therapy because he had suddenly stopped communicating and talking with us. And
Yeah.
he would point to things, so we had to learn how to back off and get him to speak and not speak for him. Which if
Yeah.
you ask down now, he still says I speak for him. So I'm still finishing off his sentences and, doing stuff like that. But as a mum, we can't help it. Like that's just what we
That's
do.
right.
Yeah. So that would be
Exactly.
my advice. Just give it time. It's a process. It's been 18 years for me. So it really is something that you just have to take day by day.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. And it is tough because a lot of the families we see don't have a lot of support.
Yeah.
And there's also that level of violence that we see in some families. Like you didn't experience that, but that must be horrific to, be in a situation like that where you're bringing up your child as best as you possibly can. And they've regressed to the point where they can't communicate and they're using, they're frustrated and using violence.
Yeah.
Have you got any ideas of what we could be sharing with mums that have that sort of experience?
I think that I think as a mum, I think you feel a lot of shame and guilt because you can't help your child and you're not, even the thought of giving your child up, and
Mm,
would be heartbreaking. And even though you
yeah,
know that you can't help this child at home, obviously as a mum trying to, hand your child over to someone else, is absolutely heartbreaking. So I think just having more empathy and more compassion for these mums that are in this situation and just
yeah,
supporting them with their journeys to do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, we do. So long. So
It's
much needs to change. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's just go on reflection. If you could go back and tell your younger self something when you first started this journey, what would it be?
It would be that in 18 years' time, these people that are trying to tell me to do these things that don't align with me or Dale, they're not going to be in my life. Then I haven't, you know what I mean? They're not around anymore. So I think going back, I would say listen to myself. Listen to your own heart and listen to your own what you feel is best for your child because you're the one that's going to be laying with them at night. You're the one putting them to bed. You're the one, going through that whole journey. So you know what's best.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also get us, and eventually you will get a supportive team around you because you will advocate and you will know who's right and who's not right for your child. So
Yeah,
once you do that, it takes that pressure off a little bit. So that's really good.
yeah. It does. It's not easy. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't find your team. It's trial and error,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
So, and unfortunately, like I live on the Central Coast and there's such a look, I know there's gaps everywhere, but we're screaming out for speech therapists, for OT, for psychology. There's just so much need. But another thing that I found, which I'm hoping will change, is the focus for the NDIS is on the actual participant. And in our case, it's the child. There doesn't seem to be a lot of support for siblings or parents.
Yeah, and that's just something I was going to say too, because it's the parents that are burning out, it's the siblings that are being left out. It's a conversation I've had with my oldest son, and there's a lot of time where he's felt like the focus has always been on Dale because it was his needs, it was so, I really feel for the siblings of families that are going through this as well, and they're often not recognized. So I think the NDS really needs to have more of a holistic family approach to their supports because let's support the parents and keep these kids in the home. Why are
That's
we
right.
asking these providers to take these kids to live there when really we could have done it in the home in a more supportive
Yeah.
environment? Yeah. So yeah, something needs to change there.
yeah, giving, I know you talked about the parents, and I know siblings are really important to both of us as well, that just even if they had some support in understanding what's going on,
Yeah,
more and how they can take care of themselves in this journey, because it's their journey as well, really.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, support around how to back off a little bit too, because one thing Dal has said to me is like, Mom, you did a great job. Now it's time for you to take a step
Mm.
back. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, not ready to do that. I think as
Yeah.
parents, we're always going to be there for our kids, but it is really hard to step back and let him make his own choices and let him, he wants to go out into the world, but it's what I guess, spent the last 18 years doing with him to get him to that point, and he's here now. So, but he's like, Mom, I'm
Yes.
good. Like, I can get a train, I can do this, I can go here. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I still worry. I worry all the time about him.
I know.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're a mum.
Yeah.
That I My eldest, I this was this you reminded me of this because it was in my speech at the wedding. I remembered when he was 21, and he was very kind and gentle and said, Mum, you can back off now. It's okay.
Yeah. So
So
there's,
I got an extra 3 years in, but yeah, I learned that was probably the kindest thing that he could have said to me. That he was an individual and he could do what he needed to do now. So
yeah.
I could back off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're learning. I'm learning to I guess give him that responsibility now of making his own choices and um
yeah,
fine, the more that I back off, the more he still comes to me as well and says, Mum,
yeah,
I'm doing this, or what do you think about this? So it's a really nice relationship, and it's a really nice balance now of I guess being mum and son rather than carer and son. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a really good strategy for all of us to take on, because if we are too much in their business, we're not allowing them to find themselves,
Yeah.
because we all are different. And what I might think is really beneficial to one of my children, I need them to be able to find out, instead of us telling them what they're good at and what they should do. These are clever kids, these are clever people, we managed to get through life, so our kids will get through life as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
We're
Yeah,
just very protective.
yeah. And I think it doesn't matter whether your kids have autism, special needs, whether even if they're, have nothing going on, we're always going to be moms, we're always going to be protective. So I guess at the end of the day, they just have to deal with it. It's who we are.
That's right. That's who we are.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, I had a question for you. How has your relationships changed over the years due to your experience and Dale's experience having ASD?
I think over the years, my relationship with Dale's dad,
Yeah,
that was really hard because I guess we were both going through that diagnosis together with him and, both trying to learn. But, he worked a lot. So it was, the responsibility was mainly put on me to raise Dale and, get him where he needed to go. And I think it plays such a hard part in relationships because we go in and we want to protect them, but that also comes at a price too when we have people around us telling us what to do and how to do it. And even being in new relationships, over the years with people who don't understand why, we homeschooled and why we don't follow the, I guess, mainstream recommendations for autism, has been
yeah,
really difficult for me over the years. Like it's just, I just want them to understand, and they do. Once they get to know him and they get to know me and they get to know our life, I think they sort of come around and go, okay, yep, I get it. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? But they're also coming from their own preconceived ideas of what they've been brought up to believe.
absolutely.
I mean, a lot of people
That's
believe
it.
go to school regardless, like, but
Mm,
school's not a one-stop shop for everybody. Like, not everybody thrives at school, so that has been really
yeah.
difficult over the years.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we're in that transition. It's like you're a trailblazer. You're part of that movement that's coming through over the last 20 years, because you're so right. People do have their own preconceptions.
Yeah.
So we've just got to take, even we've got to take those people as with who they are. And because I'm sure a lot of people are trying to come from a good place, but if there's a little bit of ignorance, it can be quite hurtful and damaging sometimes, can't it?
Oh, it can be. And it's, and I don't blame people because they grow up,
Yeah,
they're taught things, their parents believe certain things,
yeah,
and they often carry those beliefs. But I think that we need to move with the times and we need to
yeah.
understand that autism, I remember a long time ago, someone said to me, if you meet one person with autism, you meet one person with autism because it's so varied and the spectrum is so huge that, and Deb, I'm sure you find this in your job as well, is that you never meet people the same. Um, they may have
No,
the same diagnosis, but they don't have the same lives. They don't have the same behaviors. They don't have the same likes. And yet on paper, they look very much the same. I think with Dale, I just wanted people to see that although he had the general diagnosis of autism and, all the rest of it, but he was his own person and they just needed to get to know him a little bit better.
right. I think we're getting to understand them more on an individual level. A
Yeah.
mum just said to me this week when we were doing a behaviour assessment, she said, "Oh, you must get so bored with doing this." I said, "No, even though we use our standardised assessments, it's another puzzle. It's a different puzzle. So
Yeah.
it's always exciting to meet new people with their little idiosyncrasies and. But I think you said this once before, or actually, it was my sister Kerry. It was like, but doesn't everyone experience this? Like, even us, we're in our own little world where we think, why don't you understand that? Or why don't you experience that? We're
Yeah.
all different. And I think compassion and kindness can go a long way.
It can. And, like I realized over the last couple of years that my behavior support plans actually can be quite long because I do have such a fascination with motivation and behavior. So I go right into detail about why this person's doing what they're doing. Let's understand him. Let's understand why the whats and the whos and, all that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, I find the support workers just want an easy breezy, like, all right, how do I deal with these behaviors? Like, you understand them, you
Give
just
me a
tell me how
magic wand.
yeah, you just give me the magic wand and how I deal with these behaviors. So I guess that philosophy is like how I want people to see anybody with autism. It's not just a standardized thing. It's everybody's different. And we even saw that on the assembly. Like they all came from the same diagnosis, but they all had different personalities. They all saw the world differently. So it's a really
Yeah.
fascinating show to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't seen it yet, get on and have a look because I loved it. I giggled, I laughed, I just had so much joy experienced with these people that I was watching. So yeah, get on that.
Yeah.
Okay, Nicole, I think that was really brave of you to share your journey. And I'm sure over the weeks we'll keep popping in and talking about that because there's a I can't tell people enough. If there's anything you guys want to know or want to delve into more, just email us, get onto socials, let Nicole know what you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And even I was thinking like even something along the lines of behavior support. So maybe you don't have behavior support in your plan, but you have a question about behaviors or something Deb and I can help you with, and we can certainly break it down
Absolutely.
on here and try and help you. But we have had some questions come in, and we have had some ideas, and we have people waiting to be interviewed as well. So we have some great stories
Yeah.
coming up, some great mums with very inspirational journeys as well. So, and we'd also love to hear your story about your autism journey as well, like how you went through that. And if you want to come on here and share that story as well, definitely reach out to Deb and I, and we'd love to have you on as a guest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Nicole. It was really great to catch up and see you and speak to everyone out there. So, everyone, have a fantastic weekend
And we'll
and
see
rest of your
you.
week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Lost in the shadows of who she used to be. Does mom have a name? Does she have a face? And she's the one behind the scenes, holding up the broken dream.